Welcome, everybody. It is top of the hour exactly, and today we are working with Lee Gimple here, who is going to help us discover ways to quickly create trust and connection among participants using effective icebreakers, not bad icebreakers, not eye rollers. And you will be the judge of that. Speaking of being the judge of things. So for those of you who are new to this group, the group hosting this is the Meeting Innovation Community. So we are a free open community dedicated to helping teams find better ways of meeting every day. So we host free workshops, we host interesting discussions, and we like to learn. So as you are judging whether these are effective icebreakers or not, do open up the feedback form. Go ahead and open that right now. And at the end of this session, we will collect that feedback and hand it to Lee so that he can know, did he in fact bring on the icebreakers that were worth running, or is there work to be done? Let's see what we can learn today. Thank you so much, Lee, for bringing this to us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a lovely little community that you've created here, Elise. And the proof is in the pudding, in that lovely people. I don't know all of you, but the people I know, you're lovely, except for Bruce. But I kid. So I'm not going to do really much intro other than what I do in a little bit. I'm Lee. We'll get to it. I just put it in the chat. I'm going to ask you how you feel according to a puppy scale. Just give me a break. Like, don't judge too quickly. All right. So do you all see the puppy scale there? Thumbs up. Okay. Thank you. Love this group of facilitators. You all are like, does he know if it's on? It's on. All right. I'll get the thumbs up. Okay. Super simple. You see this list of puppies, or this grid of puppies. How do you feel about icebreakers? Is there a puppy that speaks to you and you think, I'm like number 6 about icebreakers? And if you want to just drop that in the chat, that would be awesome. All right, Virginia, I see that I know who we have to convert here. Is anyone super happy? Is there like a number 1 or something out there? No. Yeah, Bruce. All right, Bruce loves icebreakers. Great. So we're gonna do some fun stuff. I mentioned this because I'm starting off in, like, I can feel, this is a group of facilitators, I can sort of feel the eye rolls from here in DC doing the puppy scale. And that is somewhat intentional. I am trying to get you to roll your eyes and be like, oh my God, this icebreaker, right? And that's usually what we see, right? It's this kind of thing. And people say, I'm doing an icebreaker. And I say, how do you feel about dogs or something? And everyone goes, oh my God, I can't believe I flew into this executive retreat and we're talking about how I feel as a dog, right? So we're going to try and get beyond this, but I just want to sort of like set the table as to what we're often talking about, what we often have to overcome, and frankly, what we're not going to be talking about today. We're not going to be talking about what's your favorite food? What kind of dog are you? That is not what we are talking about here today. I do think it's really important to get people involved from the start. And this is a tough group to like sort of fool and be like, we're going to do icebreakers, but you're not going to be able to tell that they're icebreakers. So we're just going to jump into it here. I do think it's really important that, you know, it's not what's your favorite food or what's your favorite dog, but I do think it's really important that we know who's in the room from the start for a variety of reasons, right? One is just you feel recognized, you feel like you're participating and you get on that train early instead of we get 30 minutes into this. And then I say, John, do you have any thoughts? And John's like, the engine has gone cold. I don't feel like talking now, right? So I think that's part of it. So to that end, I'm going to have you do what I sort of feel like almost everybody on this call or on this, what do we call these things? Zoom has done before, which is a chat storm. If you haven't done it before, you're going to be like, wow, where's this been the last 2 years? But I suspect most of you have seen this before. So the big thing is wait to hit enter. You're going to do an introduction in chat, you're going to type your own introduction. It's much faster than us going around. We have what, 23 people in the room, right? If we each took 1 minute, 23 minutes, there's only an hour, right? That would basically be all we get to, is just who's here. So we're going to do this a little faster, like using this in a variety of different ways. Who you are, where you are, and like why you're here. You showed up for an hour-long talk about icebreakers on Zoom, right? Like, why do you care? And then, you know, any two things that you think that you like, that you want to share with us. I put my dark chocolate and my nephews in Montana, for example. So I'm going to be strangely quiet for a moment. It's going to be strangely quiet for a moment. You're all just going to be typing who you are. Try not to hit enter. Try to just hold on to it. And then we're going to do a countdown. We're all going to hit enter at the same time. And we're going to see who's in the room. So type, back in like a minute or so. All right, we're going to do the countdown in a moment. Not yet. Michelle, you drew first blood. Do you want to just quickly tell us who you are?
Sure. I'm Michelle. I'm in California. I'm a project manager at a university library, and I facilitate online meetings almost every day. And usually it's people that know each other, but I'm always interested in new ways to engage people.
Gotcha.
So that's why I'm here.
And where in California? Did you tell us that?
I'm in Redwood City, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Nice. Okay. Michelle, you get the grand honor of giving us all the countdown, whatever you want to start on, 5 or 3 or something. And on your mark, everyone's going to hit enter. So when you're ready.
Okay.
Michelle.
Let's go with 3. 3, 2, 1, enter.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. So many, if not most or all of you have done this before. You know how this works. It does not help us if we just hit enter and then move on. We do actually have to give you a moment to read through here. So I'm going to do that. And, you know, even with a little bit of banter and a little bit of whatever else, this still goes a lot faster than 1 minute per person as we go around the room. So take a minute, just read who's here, and then we'll just maybe meet a couple folks after that. You probably haven't gotten a chance to read all of them, but anybody want to just, let me ask you a different question. Who wants to volunteer and tell us who you are, just basically what you just typed or wrote. Very painless. Michelle just showed us how it's done. Anyone? Sure. Thomas, you want to tell us basically what you typed? Who are you? Why do you care? What's going on here? All that stuff.
Thomas Cox. I am in Southwest Washington, as you can tell by my almost live background. And huge fan of Elise Keith. Anything she does, I want to be around it. Fan of clean language, and I'm going to make her blush. Lean process improvement, liberating structures. I do a lot of change management and teaching executives how to lead really well. And I show them how to use icebreakers to build team cohesion, and doing that better is important to me.
This is a tough audience because you all like already know this stuff already. You go by Thomas, is that right?
Yes.
You want to look into the camera here and see if there's somebody staring back at you with eyes that say, call on me, I'm happy to share it next.
Elaine has that she wants to be called on and yet does not want to be called on look.
Elaine, to you, if you're okay.
Perfectly described, Thomas. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Elaine. I'm here in Edinburgh, Scotland, where it's an unusually warm and sunny day. And I'm always keen for new ideas with icebreakers. I guess there's an infinite supply of them. So it's nice to hear what other people are doing with them. And yeah, I work for a charity here, and we're always facilitating meetings between community groups. And yeah, if you can get it off to a great start and set the right tone right from the beginning, that just flows through the rest of the meeting. So one reason why icebreakers are so important.
Yeah, we're going to try and like bring up the lowly icebreaker here today. Elaine, same assignment to you. You want to pick this one last person here who's perhaps staring back at you like, I will tell you who I am.
Sure, I love that way of passing on, actually. I've not come across that.
It's very like third grade, right? You know that if somebody is doing this, they're probably not up to chat, but yes.
I'll choose Mia.
Hi, my name is Maya. I am a facilitator. I'm located in Greenville, South Carolina. I work a lot with change management and strategy with nonprofit organizations, mostly in the sustainability space. So we do a lot of bringing together cohorts for them to work together, which involves a lot of virtual meetings, lots of icebreakers. And yeah, I'm a big fan of icebreakers. I was a higher number on the puppy scale, but always looking to spice it up, especially when you have the same group meeting over and over. You can't rely on your go-to favorites. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and it's Maya, is that right?
Maya. Yeah.
Maya, okay.
I respond
cool.
to both. So.
Yeah, all right, all good. You can call me Lee or something. Yeah, thank you all for being here. Probably a more positive icebreaker crowd than when I've done this with other groups who are like, icebreakers are the worst. And they're often correct, right? Because icebreakers are often the worst. And so just a quick note, we only have an hour here. It's a quick day. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms in just a moment to just sort of talk over. I will give you the prompt that you can think about as I'm sort of explaining why we're going to do this. But micro story of how you met someone who's meaningful in your life, 1 or 2 minutes. Just sort of think about that in the background as I'm talking through this. What are we not talking about here today? We're not just talking about the puppy scale of like, how do you feel? Which puppy are you? And then we move on to other stuff, right? We're not talking about things that I hope are silly and nonsensical, right? I think that's why people often hate icebreakers, right? We're like doing strategic planning for the army, and we start off and someone says, what's your favorite food? And everyone's like, why are we asking, why asking that question, right? So we're not doing that. I think a lot of times, so networking and icebreakers get confused, and they often get confused with entertainment, right? And this has happened a lot online where people say, yeah, we do networking, we do icebreakers. And I say, what does that look like? And they say, well, we have someone do a wine tasting. And I go, okay, well, what does that look like? And they say, well, that person stands up in front of the virtual room and talks about this amazing wine. And I go, okay, but where's the icebreaker part? Where's the networking part? And they say, well, everyone's in the room. That is also not an icebreaker. That is just performance, right? And I think the other thing that we're talking about or not talking about is we're going to do something. It's going to take 2 seconds, and then we're going to jump into the really deep end of like, what's wrong with our organization, or how do we fix politics in America? Like, let's get there a little bit more slowly and more gradually. And we're going to talk about this idea of a social risk ladder. That's a term I use. You all probably have some sort of similar framework that you use. Okay, so that's kind of why we're here, kind of what we're doing. I am going to put you in breakout rooms, which I assume you are all very familiar with at this point. For like, honestly, it's not very long. They're never long enough. It's just going to be about 7 minutes. So you'll have a minute or 2 or 3 to get there, or to be there and talk over your micro story with a friend. Before I do that, let me just give you 30 seconds to sort of think about a micro story to share with someone instead of throwing you into the room and having you come up with it super quick. For me, right, my best friend here is in Washington, D.C. We met in 5th grade. I saw him yesterday or 2 days ago, right? Like, I moved there from Reno, and like, apparently his parents and my parents conspired, and the teacher like put us together at the lunch table. I didn't know that, but that's how we met. So that's a very micro story. 30 seconds, think about that. I'm going to fiddle with the breakout room. Okay. Just remember to share. The countdown timer will be on the top. You got about a minute or 2 per person, 3 if you are a group of 2. I see this question about the social risk ladder. I will explain that when you come back expectantly. Enjoy that coming attraction. All right, go meet someone great. Micro story about how you met someone significant in your life. Here we go. I'm going to keep making this point. I make this point all the time. Often we gather people and we want to discuss things, or we kind of come up with ideas, or there's going to be a presentation. Yeah, let's do that. But I would say a lot of why we get together for small meetings or big meetings or conferences is it's this part, right? It's the thing you just did, is the the human element, and we get to meet people and connect with people. And often that's the thing you're going to remember. You're like, oh my gosh, I met Virginia, right? And that's the thing you take away. It's not what Lee said. You're not going to remember anything I said after this, right? It's like that you met someone else great who does some of the work that you do. So that's a big piece of why we do networking and why we do icebreaker kind of stuff. So the logical thing to do is to ask you, what did you talk about in those rooms? And sort of thematically, did you notice that there was things similar between your 2 stories or 3 stories, whatever?
Sure. We all 3 of us met our spouses at work, and that was our common story. And there were interesting ways that happens. It's just sort of an interesting theme that went through. That's what we all spoke about.
And was it love at first sight with all 3 of you, or did it grow over time?
Well, I'm not sure we kind of got that to that level of detail. It felt like a growing thing. It was love at first sight for me.
I'm seeding this for what I'm about to do. I suspected it was not an instantaneous thing, and I think my point here is that often we do these icebreakers, and they are instantaneous moments of like, we did an icebreaker. I asked everyone what their favorite food was. That took 5 minutes, and then we spent 3 days together. We didn't just all gel in that first 5 minutes, right? That it takes some time. Yeah, sounds good. John, you want to call on somebody else who may be looking back at you like, I want to tell you what my group talked about.
Hi, Virginia.
Hi, John. I knew you were going to call on me. Just had that sense. Jamie and I talked about meeting our spouses, and the common theme was both men are people who were not our dream guy. As I said, I would not have had him on my vision board, and Jamie's spouse had 3 strikes against him, the 3 things she did not want in a fella. And we're living the dream now.
We're definitely not recording this part where you're like, I did not want, that was not my dream, was the
he knows. And we've been married 33 years, so it's all good.
All good.
All right. So, and I was also in that group too, so I got a little bit of backstory there. Yeah. So the point I'll just make again is that and I'll get to the social risk ladder in a sec here. It's rare that we just walk in and we just establish trust and we establish connection just like that, even if we ask one really great question, is that it often takes time. It takes time for a group to come together as an organization, right? Like it may be a 3-day retreat. It could be a group that's just working together for years. But it's rare that there's some magic bullet that just gets the group to come together. And I think that's often why icebreakers have a bad name, is because, people will say, well, we're going to do an icebreaker, and then the group will come together, and then it'll just be great, and everyone will be on the same page, and they'll all love each other. And it turns out that like asking someone where they're from or what their favorite food is doesn't do that, right? It takes more work and it takes more intention. And in this case, I asked you, to think about something, that's a story, that's not a fact, right? It's much easier to like learn and feel connected to somebody when they're storytelling and you're hearing a story, as opposed to my favorite food is pizza. It's very hard to feel like you've connected with somebody after that. And I think it's related to this topic. It's maybe not the best fit, but we're talking about making connections. So I have seeded the room with this idea of how do you make connections, right? I could have asked you, what's a great summer trip that you did? It would still get you telling stories, but I don't think it puts your mind in the space of how do people connect in the way that, how did you meet your husband? How did you meet your coworkers? How did you, that sort of thing, right? So that is why we did a little bit of that breakout there. You'll also notice that we're half an hour in. This whole thing is on icebreakers, but we're still kind of like doing icebreakers, right? We have not just like gotten into the meat of all this. I'm going to queue up something else, but any questions or quick comments to this? Okay. I am going to pull up another screen here. Okay. Again, do you see my social risk ladder here? Thumbs up. Yes. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to tell you a quick story that actually involves that same friend that I met in 5th grade. After 5th grade, we went to junior high together. Then we went to high school together. And our high school in Cheshire, Connecticut was the Cheshire High School Rams, very original name. And we would have pep rallies. Any of you have pep rallies as like high schoolers, right? Do they have those in Scotland, Elaine? Do you have pep rallies?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right. So like before a big football game, which is to say an American football game or something like that weekend, you know, you get together on Friday afternoon, everyone would be in the auditorium and you'd have like the cheerleaders yelling and it would be like, this school is amazing. And it's all very contrived, actually. Anyone want to add on to what a pep rally is here? I don't know that I described that so well.
Well, I can say this as a Brit who's lived in both England and America. It is a uniquely American thing, at least from, I would say, the British Isles over to America. But I think you described it well. You've got a bunch of people cheering for a team, and there's some cheerleaders, there's the music, there's some students screaming, and there's a team that hopefully will win the game after that. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you watch like 1980s movies, there are often pep rallies involved there. So we had this pep rally and there was an idea within like student government of like, we want everyone to dress up as a ram, the school mascot, right? And the idea initially was like the pep rally is on Friday. On Friday, everyone's going to come in and they're going to be dressed as a ram. Now, you may be a bit removed from high school, but you can appreciate that high schoolers are not apt to take social risks, right? Like what you don't want to do is walk in dressed head to toe as a barnyard animal when no one else is dressed that way, right? That is a good way to be known forever as like the barnyard kid, right? So you don't, right? So what we have to do is we have to start at a place where people are more comfortable, right? So on my social risk ladder here, we decided that we were going to do not just one day of dress up as something, but it was going to be a week of different things. I've shortened it to 3 things. So on Monday, for part of Spirit Week, we said, wear jeans for school spirit. And I see some of you smiling because you think, half the class was probably already wearing jeans. And you're right, it's a very low risk. And then we said, wear red. Next day, wear red. Super, super simple, right? You're not taking a big social risk, but you are consciously doing something. Also, I love the idea that everyone's in band here. There's this very active band conversation happening. And then finally, like 3 days in or 4 days in, we would say, now is the time when everyone dresses up as a ram. And you would say, I see that everyone else has already done this. And I am myself going to do this. And I'm not going to feel alone. And I mention that because a lot of what happens in meetings, in conferences, is we just jump right to the like dress up as a ram, metaphorically, right? And people are not comfortable getting there, right? We say, we're having this big retreat about what's wrong with our organization. How do we fix it? Day 1, we ask people, what's wrong with our organization? And everyone looks around and they go, too fast, too soon, not going to volunteer, right? And you get crickets. And you guys have all probably seen this before, right? The forming, storming, norming, performing, right? Sort of similar to that of how do groups come together? And I would like you to think about icebreakers as part of the forming, storming, norming part, and not skipping from, we walked in on, day 1, minute 1, and then we jumped right to, we're going to do the performing part, right? There has to be some getting to know you there, right? The other thing that I just want to talk about here is this idea of, well, let me ask you a different question. Has anyone ever seen the Jimmy Kimmel bit where he asks people, do you like Obamacare or do you like the Affordable Care Act? Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyone seen this? Okay, here's, I did find the link. Here it is. I'm hesitant to actually play it for you because we're going to record this and I feel like copyright stuff. Anyway, you can watch it at your own time. But It's the same thing, right? Affordable Care Act and Obamacare are the same thing. If you ask people, how do you feel about Obamacare? People say, I hate it, terrible. And if you say, how do you feel about the Affordable Care Act? People say, makes a lot of sense, really like it, glad that it's affordable, right? And I think there is an element here that if I say, on my agenda or what I'm telling people, today we're going to start off and we're going to do icebreakers. People go, icebreakers, I hate icebreakers, right? If you say, we're just going to meet other people in the room, they go, oh, I would like to meet the other people in the room. I like that, right? So a big piece of it is not just what you're doing, but also what you call what you're doing. I almost never use the word icebreaker here. If we said, this is a session about meeting people or something, I don't know if we get the same turnout, but yeah, I think you often do yourself a disservice by saying we're doing icebreakers or even we're doing networking. Just do the damn thing. Don't worry about what we call it, right? Elise, can I get a hallelujah? Yeah. All right, so I have a little bit of time left here. We're gonna try some thinking about icebreakers. Let me just check and see if I'm on track here. Yeah, so I'm gonna put you in some new groups in a sec, but let me just explain a little bit more about that. So we can do icebreakers, but I think we can disguise them. We can call them other things. A lot of times I would say the thing that we disguise them as is collaborative work, right? Can we do something together that gets people to talk and meet and whatever? If I said right now, instead of telling micro story, if I said, I want to put you in small little groups at the beginning of this sort of eponymous icebreaker section or training and say, what are the best attributes of an icebreaker, and you're working together on it, right? That is itself basically an icebreaker. It's very meta, but I'm not saying share your favorite food or where you're from. I'm saying go work on this thing together. And Allison and Andrew and Mia, like they all work together on this thing. They come out going, oh, we talked about this stuff. We had a great time. Let's call that basically an icebreaker, even though we don't call it an icebreaker. To that end, I would say there's often a binary where people will say, is an icebreaker, is not an icebreaker, is networking, is not networking. And the reality is those things can do double duty, right? That we don't have to have a conference that has content session, and then at 5 o'clock we have a networking session, right? We can do things where there's networking woven into that content, right? If we say, let's put you in small groups, let's do roundtables, let's do some think, pair, share, right? Some stuff that really looks more collaborative. Let's work on the, all right. Make sure we're all muted here. Good, all right. So it doesn't have to be a binary, right? Those things can be stitched together. And let's see, the other thing I was just going to say is, yeah, we don't have to call it icebreakers. It can be different things. Let's stop on that. Okay, the next thing that I want to do, you see through this, you see that we're basically just doing more collaborative work, which we would just say is basically getting you to connect. Oh, my bullets didn't come out. You'll figure it out. Okay, I'm going to have you all think about this scenario. Let me just explain it to you, and then I'll have you read it. I'll have you think about it. Then you'll get in groups and you'll try and sort of brainstorm a bit. This is a company retreat, 20 people. We're going to say it's in person. A bunch of people are new to this company, and there is the first coffee break at this company retreat. It's a couple, day or two retreat or something, right? If you were not the experienced, awesome facilitators that you are, and you were just the person who was assigned to run this, the program manager at that company, you might say, we're going to start off with an icebreaker and we're going to ask everyone where they're from. And you can see, right, that would not go well. It would not help people really bond and storm and form and perform and norm, right? Wouldn't do that. So you now have an opportunity. We have this real scenario. I just want you to think about what would you do, A, with the tools that you have, but also looking towards the goal of why are we doing the icebreaker, right? And the answer here is to get these people to connect, but I think also you'll see in this little scenario, to get them to break down silos, right? To balance some of the introvert extrovert tendencies, probably to break up little cliques where like the marketing people are always going to hang out together and the accounting people are always going to hang out together. How do we get them to connect as a group and really set the stage for what could be a really great retreat, instead of one where we just share where we're from, that we dive into the work and people still feel like, who's Cindy? Why is Cindy here? I don't know Cindy, right? So read through what's in the chat box here. I'm going to remix the breakout rooms. Just sort of think about what you might do. This is pretty unstructured versus what I would typically do here, but we just don't have a lot of time. So I just have you pop into those breakout rooms and just sort of talk through what might we do that's better than what would typically be done in this situation. Think about that. All right, I've remixed it a couple times. We know Zoom is not as random as we sometimes want it to be, but all right, you have your marching orders, see what you come up with. Really just a good chance to chat with each other about this topic. Here we go. As expected, there's never enough time in the breakouts, right?
Never enough time.
Never enough time. So quickly, we don't really have time for everyone to share out their ideas. I assume you all came up with awesome ideas. I was with Michelle and Barb, and we were talking about sort of opposite triz kind of things and different ways to get people to engage on like who had been at the company and like what do you wish you had known, and just some of that storytelling, which I thought was really lovely. So just quickly, I'm going to hand this back to Elise in a sec. But first of all, I'd just be curious what you're taking from today. If you want to drop that into the chat. I'm just going to share a couple other things in terms of what I hope you got from today, and then I'll give it back to Elise. Don't take this personally, but I'm going to mute some of you. Somebody want to drop in the link to Triz from Liberating Structures in the chat? I just don't have it in front of me, and I mentioned it, and party foul on me for doing that. That was remarkably fast, Michelle.
Well, only because I had looked it up when we were talking about it in our breakout. That's why.
Also, if you want to just drop this stuff in, it's not a chat storm or anything. I'd just be curious. I'm going to pull this other thing up here in a sec. All right. Last time you all see like kind of a sad looking Jamboard there. Yes. Okay. Okay. So what do I think we did today in a very fast 1 hour? Quick hit interviews. I talk about all those like where we just show up and we like, Michelle, where are you from? And we're in California, right? Just quick little moments, right? Very easy to get going here. We all know what the chat storm is. We did that, a really easy way to get people to introduce themselves. And I think you can even do something like that in person. That impromptu networking, the water cooler moment, right? That micro story, just 2 minutes, right? Really easy, even if I'm an introvert, even if I don't know the person in the room, we time box it, we give you something to talk about. Really easy way to get, energy and engagement going in a room. That social risk ladder, right? I talk about it in the context of wearing jeans and then the colored shirt and then moving into the meat of something like more risky, but it's really pretty similar to that storming, forming, norming, performing. How do we get to the meat with building up? Micro celebrity moments, similar to the quick interviews, but anytime, somebody answers a question or comes up on stage, even though it's me, it's Lee's, time, we have somebody else who asks a question and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we know Elaine is from Scotland or something, right? And we can grab her in the hall and be like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to go to Scotland. That doesn't happen unless we bring somebody up. And it's a good way to make these connections like sort of passively, right? All these moments where we're doing collaborative work, I think doubles as networking, doubles as icebreakers, right? It's a way to get people to connect. Something that I just think about a lot that I hope is a current that runs through this is just to be intentional, right? A lot of this stuff doesn't happen because we just think it's going to happen. We do have to, as the facilitator, facilitate, right? To make it happen. This is just your ideas from your scenarios is whatever you talked about in your room. I just want you to remember that you talked about those things and you came up with good ideas on your own. And then the last one is, I would say, don't call them icebreakers. Do them intermix them with other things, but don't start with, now we're going to do an icebreaker and it's going to be what your favorite food is, right? We can do things more subtle and I think with maybe more power than the way we usually think about this thing, or if you look up icebreakers on Google, what that looks like. So I don't know, Elise, if I've left you enough time, but I've left you what I've left you. And I'm going to hand it back to you. Thank you all for coming and breaking ice with me today.
Thank you so much, Lee, for bringing this to us. So at the end of these sessions, we like to collect the takeaway, or in our case, we call it the bottom line up front, which is something that I picked up from the military. And in the military, what they do is they're often briefing senior people who are far too busy. And in our modern lives, we're all people who are far too busy. And given that there are 25 of us out of 70 who registered, clearly we had 50 some people who are far too busy to bother to actually show up, even though we're going to give them the recording. So my bottom line upfront question for us today is, why should they watch this recording? And we can take that and actually put it at the beginning of our recording when we post it. So in the chat, or shout it out, for those friends who were unable to join us today, what did they miss? What's the bottom line up front? I would be tickled pink to hear a voice or two.
I was going to say practical tips on what people can do to improve their meetings.
Thank you, Jamie.
I would say you would see equal parts humor, humanity, and just, yeah, good ideas.
Excellent. And you almost alliterated it, the whole thing.
I
too.
tried. I was trying.
So
I love
close.
alliteration. I was like, oh my God, I just need that final H. Humor, humanity, and oh, someone's gonna get it. But anyway, yes.
Wonderful. I see in the chat, Thomas says icebreakers are valuable as team building. Yeah. And firsthand experience, right, Elaine? That, like, this is a thing we forget about meetings, and all of the folks who think they're going to just watch the recording. Learning how to meet well and how to facilitate is embodied knowledge. Yeah, you can read it, but you can't do it until you do it. It's like riding a bike. You gotta be in the saddle to make it happen. John says how to reimagine icebreakers by experiencing techniques. All right, one more voice. I love the reminders. I liked the ladder of social risk. That's not something we've talked about before, but anytime you want to change meeting cultures in organizations, what you are doing is introducing enormous social risk, especially for your senior leaders. So how do you help make and ease that transition? That reminder, wear jeans today, that's all it takes. That's a great one. So I love that. Thank you. And with that, we are here at the close of our time. So again, I'll remind you, please leave Lee some feedback. He will be so delightfully appreciative of that. And then join us again. The recording for this should be available in the next week or so, and posted in the community where recordings live. And we hope to see you again at a future event. Next week, we are talking about change models. So that's completely different and should be fun. All right, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. Consider that ice broken.